According to Merriam-Webster, capital punishment is, quote, the practice of killing people as punishment for serious crimes, end quote. Although it seems like a simple concept, capital punishment has changed through the implementations and interpretations since it was first established. Today I'll be talking about the history of capital punishment and its methods, and the reason for controversy on the topic. The first among these points is the history of capital punishment. Capital punishment took rise as early as the 10th century, and it became a common practice in the centuries to come. Britain's initial embrace of capital punishment influenced America's stance on the situation, as the Europeans traveled to the New World and brought along with them capital punishment. The regulations for the death penalty varied among colony to colony as well as throughout the coming centuries as governors were replaced. For example, in 1612, crimes such as stealing grapes, killing chickens, and trading with Indians were punishable by death. As years went on, as far as modern day, the crimes that were punishable by death lessened. According to procon.org, there are currently 41 capital crimes, including murder, treason, and espionage. Not only have the number of capital crimes changed, but the method of execution has changed as well. The method of execution has changed from hanging, a firing squad, electrocution, gas chambers, and to the current lethal injection. The following information concerning execution methods is derived from deathpenaltycurriculum.org. Hanging was primarily used up until the 1890s, and it's still able to be used in Delaware and Washington, but the last hanging took place on January 25th, 1996. A firing squad was the next available execution method, and it's still available in Idaho, but the last firing squad execution took place on January 26, 1996. The electrocution method was utilized in 1890 until the use of gas chambers primarily took its place in 1924. The most common and recent method of execution is lethal injection. So now that we know about the history and methods of capital punishment, we can now talk about why it's controversial. The main points as to why the death penalty is controversial include morality, constitutionality, and cost. The first among these points is the issue of morality. Some argue that the death penalty is appropriate to use because it provides an equally justice punishment to the heinous crime that was committed. Edward Fesser from procon.org argued to sentence murderers to anything less than death would, quote, fail to do justice because the punishment would be grossly disproportionate to the heinousness of the crime, end quote. On the other hand, some may argue that the punishment is only cruel and doesn't really help the system. Sam and Frank Thomas from procon.org argued, quote, America should no longer accept the myth that capital punishment plays any constructive role in our criminal justice system, end quote. The second point is constitutionality. Many argue that the death penalty is unconstitutional because it's cruel, unusual, and according to American Civil Liberties Union, it, quote, endorses killing to solve social problems, end quote. Antonin Scala from procon.org argued, however, that people attempt to nullify their sentence by using the Eighth Amendment, but that the Eighth Amendment only covered punishments that brought terror, pain, or disgrace. The last of these points is the cost factor of the death penalty versus life imprisonment. According to deathpenaltyinfo.org, quote, cases without the death penalty cost $740,000, while cases where the death penalty is sought cost $1.26 million, end quote. Furthermore, death row costs taxpayers about $90,000 more each year than regular prison. However, some may argue that the death penalty is worth the cost. The Death Penalty Information Center argues that sentencing a convict to the death penalty would, quote, save the state from having to pay fees associated with lengthy trials and years of appeals, end quote. The DPIC also argued that this would, quote, end the agony of repeated court hearings for the families of the victims, end quote. To sum up, we now know about the history of capital punishment and why it's a controversial topic. So although it might seem like a simple concept, The implications and interpretations of capital punishment have progressed since it was first established. Capital punishment has evolved by means of the methods that are utilized and also from the approval of citizens. So I hope this speech has left you more informed about capital punishment.